Okay, to solve equations, you just have to remember, first of all, that an equation by definition means that two sides are equal. Okay, so just be aware of that. A lot of students forget sometimes that, of course, they're equal. In other words, this 2 right here, that I'm showing right here, this 2 is exactly the same value as this 3x. Okay, just be aware of that, that they have to be the same. So in other words, if I suddenly decide to multiply this side for some reason by, let's say c, now they're not equal anymore unless I multiply this side by c. Now they're equal. Okay, so whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Just be aware of that in equations. A lot of students forget that. Now, just going through something like this, suppose I just told you to solve for x. Very straightforward. Because there's a 3 times x here, because it's multiplying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this 3 in order to move it to the other side. And so really what this looks like is I'll show you the long way here, is I'm going to divide both sides by 3, in which case that just becomes 1, in which case x will just be equal to 2 over 3. Now, most of the time you're going to be able to show this without doing multiple steps. You can just jump straight to x equals 2 over 3. They get a little bit more complicated, and you can get questions like this. Suppose it says 5 over 2 is equal to x over 3, in which case, in order to solve for x here, you're going to multiply that by 3 to get it out of the denominator. So I'm going to multiply that side by 3 and this side by 3, in which case you get 15 over 2 is equal to x. And there's my final answer. You can also have another example here where you're going to have here, now x is on the denominator, in which case, in order to move this, it's actually a two-part problem. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to multiply by x. So I multiply both sides by x, and so I get 5x over 2 is equal to 3. And then I want to divide, actually I'm going to multiply first by 2, in which case I'm going to get here 5x is equal to 3 times 2. And last but not least, I want to divide this x, or 5, pardon me, and so I get 3 times 2 over 5, in which case this just becomes 6 over 5. Again, it can be tricky to do this. You can get a little bit faster, but be aware when it's in the denominator, you have to first put it on top. You need that x to be on top, like here. And the only way to do that is to multiply it. So it really is a two-step problem. You can get more challenging things, something like this. You'll see here that it says x is equal to 2 plus 3 equals 8. In which case, the first thing you want to do here is solve for the bracket, in which case that's going to be x times 5 is equal to 8. And then x is equal to 8 over 5. Notice, by the way, that I could have had something like this. It just said 2x plus 3x is equal to 8. Now I can solve for this and get 5x, or I can do what's called distribute it, in which case I can take, or not distribute, but factor it, in which case I'm going to pull the x out, and I get x 2 plus 3 is equal to 8. And the reason is because if I multiply this and this, I get all of this back. And so I could have done this and then divided by 5, and I get the exact same answer. The last example I'm going to show you here is when we have two equations and two unknowns. Suppose I don't know what this value is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, first of all, I'm going to solve for x. So in other words, for this one here, this equation, I'm going to solve for x. In which case I'm going to get here that 3x is equal to, well, I'm going to take 5 minus 2, which is 3. And then I'm going to get x is equal to, well, 3 divided by 3, which is 1. So I get x is equal to 1. Now I can take this value and substitute it into here, in which case I'm going to get y is equal to 2. And instead of x, I'm going to write 1 is equal to 1. And, or sorry, probably y plus 2, it's a plus there, times 1 equals 1, which is I'm going to get y plus 2 is equal to 1, or y is equal to negative 1 when I move it to the other side. So I have both answers, x equals 1 and y equals negative 1. Again, you've probably gone through many of these before, but just remember some of those techniques and some of those rules to get by here.